Cloud going now. And without further ado, we turn it over to Simon Kelly. Take it away, Simon.
Hi, guys. I'm from England, as you could probably tell. So I'll give a little bit of an introduction and I'll fire the slides up. So just by way of introduction, I'm sure if you guys are all baseball fans, you're probably Phillies fans, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I lived in Colorado for 2.5 years, so my team's pretty crappy, Colorado Rockies. But before you get envious, I have stood on home plate at Phillies ground, Citizens Bank Park, at a customer function when I worked over in America. So there you go. And for a Brit, baseball's my main game, not cricket. All right. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, let's get this started. Share screen. Can everybody see that? Let me try again. Everybody see that, yeah?
Yes.
Tom? Okay, cool. So I've got some slides and then we can have some time for Q&A at the end, hopefully.
You might want to put it in slideshows, Simon, right?
Yeah, I can't find that blooming...
that little goofy thing right there, man.
No, I know that. I just couldn't get the taskbar out of the way. Okay. Yeah. Right, folks.
There you go, my man. Awesome.
So this presentation is called Standing Out in a Sea of Sameness, the 5 competencies for a successful marketing career. Now, I'm guessing that a few of you would like to have a career in marketing. And so I'm going to give you a view as to what our research told us about what the 5 competencies are for marketeers, but also appropriate for sales leaders and for business leaders. And they're in my book, Standout Marketing, which Tom's referred to. And I can give you some directions to where you can find that later on in the presentations. Okay. So, just a bit of background about myself. I've had over 30 years of experience running marketing teams. I was the senior vice president for marketing at BT, which is the biggest telecoms company in the UK, probably in Europe. And I ran the business-to-business marketing there. I've also run North American marketing for a telecoms company that were based out of Denver called Level 3. And after a couple of bits of merger and acquisition activity, they joined CenturyLink, who you guys might have heard of, and it's now called Lumen. So I used to work there, running their field marketing function. That's how I managed to get onto home plate at Phillies. So I'm now what I call a pracademic. I also work at one of the top universities in the UK, at York, which you might know New York is named for. And I'm a co-author of 2 books, one called V.A.L.U.E, and this book that I'm going to talk about today called Standout Marketing. Okay. What we did some research and we were interested in the fact that as a gut feel and from our experience as marketeers and educators, we felt that companies found it difficult to meaningfully differentiate, and we wanted to test our assumptions out. So what we actually did is for 3 industries, telecoms, data centers and UK universities, we scraped the websites and the Twitter feeds for the top 30 telecom companies, data center companies, and the top UK universities. Be interesting to get your guys' take on this as well when you think about the university sectors. But so we mashed all that together and did some analysis of it, and this is what we found. That first of all, companies just kept using generic terms. So if you're doing a piece of strategy work or something for a university project, just try this. Go onto the websites for the different competitors and just see how similar they are, using very similar language like services, solutions, and then depending on the industry, in this case telecoms, clearly talking about the technologies a little bit too much, like cloud services or connectivity or whatever. If you like, the biggest sin that's committed by companies is they talk about the sales too much. And here's some examples from telecoms. We've got a really extensive geographic reach. We've got an expert team. We give you 24/7 support. Well, of course, everybody does that. And the point is, it's not really relevant to the customer that they're trying to talk to. And then they also all made sort of very grand claims like we can help you transform your business without really being specific about just how they could do that. It was very superficial. And whenever they try to talk in the customer's language, as soon as you scrape the surface of it, what they were really trying to say is buy some of our product. Okay. So this is clearly a problem. What we know through research, actually an organization you might have become familiar with, I'm sure Tom might have told you about them, the Corporate Executive Board, who've done a lot of work over there researching differentiation and sales practices and all that stuff. They found, and other credible organizations like Gartner, that even before COVID, something like the first 60% of a sales process in business to business, people don't talk to salespeople, they're looking at the websites and all the marketing channels. So that means there has to be more and better differentiation. It has to be easier for customers to be able to see what one company can offer over another. And the problem is there's a lack of differentiation from a salesperson's perspective. When they're in the room with customers, they find it difficult to articulate why their company is better than the other because of this whole sea of sameness problem. And so what you see when you go to websites is that companies all talk about their own company, their own products, their own approach, their own experience, and not about the customers. And what customers are looking for is what is it that you can provide us that adds value for us, that can help us do our business more effectively. And when you are analysing competition, as I'm sure you've done at Westchester, quite often they talk about direct and indirect competitors. Well, guess what? The major competitor in business to business is a thing called inertia, because there's a statistic that 58% of business to business deals end in no deal. In other words, two organizations have been talking to each other for a hell of a long time, and in the end the customer says, I'm not convinced, I might as well just keep the thing that I've already got. Okay, so so what? How does the customer benefit from all this? It's difficult to tell when you look at all the websites. They're not differentiated. It's not clear what they offer the customers. So we've done a research for our previous book, talking to a lot of marketing and sales leaders across the world, and we thought we need to talk to a bunch more because we need to try and find out why this problem exists. And so we did a lot of depth interviews, mainly from sales, marketing and business leaders in the UK and in the US, and in a few other countries, but mainly UK and US. We did depth interviews and we looked for the trends in what was being said to us. We had a global survey, like a survey monkey type thing, which again we pushed out to practitioners and got quite a lot of responses. And we added all this to our 30 years experience working in organizations and now working with organizations and teaching marketing at universities. Yeah. So this is what we found. We found that it's a competence issue, that marketeers are asked to do a lot of things. I think what you've probably found at universities, unless it's taught dramatically differently over there, it's quite often marketing's taught as like a step-by-step process that first of all you do the analysis and the audit, then you develop the strategy, and then you execute the tactics. Yeah, that's okay. But very little seems to be taught, and very little is talked about in real businesses about the skills and the competencies marketeers need to have in order to be able to do this effectively. Whereas if you move into a sales job, there's absolutely lots and lots of books and things that you can get to help you, which talk about the skills and competencies that salespeople require. So these are the 5 competencies that we identified: visionary, activator, learner, usefulness, and evaluator. And what I'm going to just do is walk you through those competencies, and then we'll have a chat. Okay. So just so you're clear, what we define as a skill is what you need to be able to do your job. So in other words, back to baseball, if you're the opening batsman for Colorado Rockies or Phillies or anybody, then you've got to be able to hit the ball. Yeah. But it's not just that that's going to make you competent. You're going to need a whole lot of other things, like you're going to have to understand how you do game management. You're going to have to understand about what the field of play looks like when you go up to bat, all that good stuff. So that's the baseball, if you like, analogy, probably poorly executed analogy, but competencies, knowledge, skills, and behaviors all together about what's required. Now, when you're at university, I'm gonna have a bet with you here. I would bet you $50 that the thing that you get taught in universities most often is this whole pest or pestle analysis. Yeah. Yeah. And what I found over here is it's almost one of the most poorly taught techniques in academia, because what this is supposed to do, the pestle analysis, is actually what we think is the first main competence, is what we're indicating here. If you're going to be a successful marketeer, you've got to be a visionary in some way. Well, we all know visionaries, and we can think of Jeff Bezos, and we can think of Zuckerberg, and people like that are real sort of extremely successful examples. But what we mean here is people who have the foresight to be able to see what's coming down the pipe, yeah? And that's made up of 5 things. First of all, to focus on what's happening outside in the customer's world. And then having a distant vision, like an eagle, to be able to swoop over the world of the customer and your own world as a company, and to see what's out there. But then, and this is my problem with the way pest gets taught, is you've got to be able to zoom in. You're looking broadly for the biggest opportunities and threats to be able to say, that's the thing that we're going to lay bets on. And as you can imagine, companies are really going to be taxed by this at this moment in time, because we can all make very different predictions about what life's going to be like after this pandemic. Yeah. What I surely know about myself is that if I don't go on another Zoom call after this is all over, it'll be the last one I ever do. But some people like working from home, and so everybody's having to make predictions about all of that. And so I think you've got to be good at trying to imagine what the world could be like, because you guys may know better than some of us older folks here, which I guess is just me and Tom on this call, that you know, there are lots of technologies out there at this moment in time. And so another challenge is in the T aspect of a pestle type world, you know, what impact is artificial intelligence really going to have? What impact is the blockchain going to have, or robotics, and how can that be better applied to this world? Yeah. So when I do this with practitioners, I ask them to score the sales just roughly on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1's not very good and 5's excellent. So you might want to be thinking about that for yourself, and to think about if you actually think you're good or not good at using tools like Pestle, and then sort of drilling it down to a point that you're able to say, this is the thing that I think is most likely to happen, and therefore this is how I might develop a strategy. Okay. And again, when I run this with practitioners, they're always looking for, oh, give me some tips as to what I can do to get better at that. And visionary is one of those where you, if you like, instantly think, is this a thing that you can either do or you can't do? Well, I think you can teach yourself to get better at this. And one thing you can do is to seek other perspectives. Yeah. So don't just dwell in your own circle. If you're in a company, go and ask some industry experts, go and ask more customers than you currently speak to. ask people from different fields for different points of view, and use those more often. Ask people who are good at technology, ask people who track changes in consumer behavior. Yeah. So that's the V. The next thing is called activator. Now, what you'll find if you get a marketing job, and I think some of you have had placements, yeah. So if some of you have had placements, you'll have experienced this. Quite often, you start off, you're in a junior position in marketing, and you might have to get lots of people in quite a decent sized company all to do something that you need them to do for the marketing campaign that you're developing, or the program that you're putting in place. We call this kids against tanks. Yeah. I mean, you start and you're just a kid, and you've got to get these people who are really much more experienced than you to move towards something that you need the organization to do. So we think there are a few things you need to be able to do. The first one is what we call balanced advocacy. Now, what that means in simple terms is to be able to think about the impact on a customer, which is marketing 101, but also think about how the thing you're proposing is going to help your own company. And many marketeers fall down in that, yeah? So that's what we call balanced advocacy. And you have to be good at listening, because what a lot of marketeers do poorly is they have an idea, they talk to a bunch of other marketeers in their company, come up with what they think is a great idea, and then take it to the rest of the organization, and then get upset if somebody says, I don't think that aspect will work. I don't think that other aspect will work. So we say, I think this is an American term, don't go in with a fully baked idea. Go in with something that's work in progress, and understand that the idea may change based on input from other people in the business. And recognize that you're going into a negotiation. Not everything is going to be accepted in your idea, and you might have to make some trade-offs. Now, if you want to be a marketeer, you have to absolutely be tenacious, yeah? So you've come up with this idea. First of all, it's got rejected, you reform it, then you get it over the line and people buy into it. But that's only the first hurdle you've got over, because then as soon as they buy into it and you start to try and move your idea forward, be it a marketing campaign or something, then other ideas are coming in that start to consume people's time. So for example, the sales guys who you need to work with you, all of a sudden somebody from IT's asked them to do something about a new IT idea, and they have to take their eye off the ball. So you've got to constantly keep on at them to move forward with your idea. And in the end, it's a job that's about being people centric and understanding that, you've got to take on people's ideas. And then finally, to be a good activator, you've got to be able to do this thing that we call contextualization. Okay. So I tried to do it at the beginning of the call. I tried to talk about baseball, and I might have done it in a ham-fisted way, because you might be able to relate to that. That's talking in your own context. Now, what you've got to do as a marketeer, if you're talking to all the companies in the, can everybody hear me all right? Getting a bit of feedback here.
I'm getting feedback too. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, I don't know. So it seems to have gone now. Okay, so so what you've got to do if you're a marketeer is, on your website, you've got to be able to talk to all of the companies that your company serves, yeah, all the customers. But then in a different context, you've got to be able to talk to a single customer. Like if you're doing business to business, you have to be able to talk to Bank of America about the issues that they're facing and what you can do for Bank of America. Okay, so that's activator. Can you get people to buy into your initiatives and drive them through the business? Now, what we actually advise marketeers is, the first thing you need to do is understand how your company makes money, because many marketeers don't understand this. So, and a couple of the people that we interviewed, commercial leaders, really got uptight about this and said, I found too many marketeers that are okay at developing ideas they think are going to work for the customer, but they just don't work for this company in terms of making us money. So whenever you're looking at joining an organization, try and make sure that you really truly understand how they make money or how they may satisfy customers. The good news for you guys who are at a good university and hopefully on the final run-in of your own university careers at Westchester, unless unless any of you are going to go on to do masters, is that, you know, we think a core competence for marketeers is learning, the learning competencies, learning from changes in the environment, learning from changes in customer buying behavior and what the value, and learning what sets you apart from other organizations and your competitors. So we're saying, be curious all the time, be curious about these things, you know, try to be learning new stuff. One of the biggest criticisms about marketeers in business to business marketing is they don't spend enough time with customers. So if you are in an organization, once you start work and you get a marketing job in business to business, you know, make sure you can go on ride-alongs with salespeople or go and talk to the customers, but be curious about the customer and their environment. And at all times, be reflective. I don't know if you do that much over there, Tom, if you do many assignments that are about reflection, but certainly they do in the UK, where you're asked to think about what you've actually done and then reflect on how well you've done and what you could have improved, okay? What we recommend if you're a learner is to fearlessly experiment. So IBM did a big study called the Modern Marketing Mandate, and they actually were trying to find out about what chief marketing officers need to do to strategically address how to move their organization forward. And they categorize marketeers in three main buckets: reinventors, practitioners, and aspirationals. Reinventors, practitioners, aspirationals. And so what they found is the reinventors are way the best performers, and their organizations grow more and are more profitable. And the reinventors are the people who experiment, who try something and just ditch it if it doesn't work. If something does work, they reflect on it and improve on it, etc., etc. You know, there's a lot of different moving parts in marketing now. And so it doesn't do to be the kind of person who thinks that everything's going to work the first time you try it, yeah? But above all, be receptive to new things and new ideas, okay? So if this was an optional class and you guys have jumped on, then you're obviously somebody that's in good shape to be this learner, okay? So, you know, just be curious the whole time. And when you start a new job in marketing, don't be frightened to ask dumbass questions, yeah? Because believe it or not, there's another really good book that I've just started reading. I'm doing a podcast with these guys next week. It's called Humanizing B2B. And it's about, you know, taking a more human face to the customer rather than talking about, you know, technology the whole time. And they actually say that even when you're in an organization a long time, you know, if you're 40 years old and you've been in the company 10 years, then if you're the marketing guy, you should be naively curious and always asking questions about why are we doing this? Why are we not doing that? Okay. So in an effort to spell value, then we had to have this word begin with U for usefulness. But what we actually mean here is relevance. So you have to be able to differentiate in a way that's relevant and resonates with customers. I'm sure you've probably talked about blue ocean strategies somewhere along the way, yeah? Now, if you've talked about blue ocean strategies, yeah, that's great, because it's basically saying everybody's killing themselves over here, then why don't you go over here and do something different? Now, that's great, but there's something different. It has to be something that's meaningful to customers and is going to make money for your own organization. So, and it is a big challenge for marketeers, this, bearing in mind we said that customers now, because of the pandemic, are not speaking to salespeople anywhere near as often. So they're looking at, you know, the marketing channels. Meanwhile, the corporate executive board found that 94% of companies said that they've checked out of dealing with other companies because, quite frankly, they just send them crap, either by email or by post. They're sending them communications that aren't relevant to them. So what you've got to be able to do to be useful is what we call connect the dots. Connect the dots by truly understanding the problems the customer faces that the thing that you sell can fix. Okay. And that's at the heart of usefulness, and hopefully be able to pick out already that all of these competencies work together, because in order to be useful and ever useful to a customer, you're going to have to keep learning about how the behavior's changed. Yeah. And one of the big issues for business to business is you guys will know if you want to do something in your personal lives, you're a couple of clicks away from finding an app that can help you. Press on the app and then you can do the thing straight away. So why does it take so long for businesses to respond to other businesses? So in order to be useful, you've got to have a lens on the customer and be really focused on the changes that are happening in their world. You also have to be very disciplined, because when you have a marketing role, everybody wants you to do all sorts of things to try and help them. And you have to be able to say, that seems like a great idea, but it's not going to help us. We've got budgetary issues, and then and we need to focus on these things that are going to help us more often. I mean, I remember when I was working over there, we had to tell some sales guys we weren't funding their attendance at the Byron Nelson Golf Championship with customers anymore, because we had some other priorities. And that wasn't a conversation that went down very well, but it's the kind of thing you have to do, stay focused on the things that are useful. Okay. And then, so what we say here to marketers is deviate away from the assembly line approach. Don't just think you've got to keep doing stuff all the time. Do less and do it more effectively. Try to do things that build the perception of your brand, rather than always try to do something that's selling the customer something directly. And you can see how the stellar companies like Apple do this. You probably talk about that a lot. Okay. And then finally, you may have heard this famous phrase that gets accredited to all sorts of different marketeers. The one that says, "I'm sure half of my marketing budget is well spent. The only problem is I don't know which half." Well, that is an ongoing problem, and as a marketeer, then you're going to have to be the person that evaluates ideas that come in about, oh, we've got a few visionaries over here and they're all telling me that there are these great ideas. And you're the one that's going to have to sift them out and say, well, I'm seen to have a lot of integrity in this organization. People know that I'll judge ideas on the merits, and we'll move forward with the ones that are going to help this business first. But in order to do that, you also have to have some sort of level of political nous, because when you are analyzing whether something's worked or not, you might have to turn around to somebody who could be, again, quite a bit more senior than you in an organization and say, this idea is not working here. And there's no way that you can expose somebody that's really senior in a room full of other people, because, it's just embarrassing. So it's not just about being able to count what's worked and not worked and then respond to it. It's understanding if you like, the political nature of that activity. Okay. But more and more, if you want to get the budget that you need, you're going to have to be able to say, we did X and it resulted in Y. And it can't just be what is called the vanity metrics. Likes don't sell products. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard that before. Okay. And so, start with a question and attitude again. Hopefully you'll have seen throughout this that, and you may have been taught this before, I'm sure Tom might have talked about this, being a great marketeer is largely about asking a lot of great questions. So what did we do? So what? And based on that, so what, did he get results? So now what do we do? Okay, I'll leave you with this deck, Tom. I'm sure you circulate it around or something. As Tom says, I don't know if you guys have been onto this, but there's a guy called Douglas Burdett who's got the marketing podcast. It's the best podcast for about marketing books in the whole world. I know, Tom, that's how we met on one of those sessions. And he said this is one of the best 3 books every marketer should read to have a successful career. So if you want to look at buying it or getting somebody to buy it for you, then you jump on that page, Kogan page, and you can get a discount using that discount code. Okay. This is our company, Shake Marketing. And if you go on that website, you'll see some free resources that you can use both for your academic studies. There's a couple of our white papers on that whole Sea of Sameness thing that you might find useful. And there's some other stuff on there too about marketing planning and things. Okay. That's it, folks.
All right.
Any
You stop
questions?
sharing so we'll get everybody on the screen.
Yeah, stop share. Yeah.
All righty, now we got everybody. Gallery view, fantastic. All right, that was awesome. Again, those 5 words: visionary, activation, learner, usefulness, and evaluator. You were just handed some fantastic advice. That book, highly recommend it. Standout marketing. He didn't have enough time to really go into some of the analysis, but it's scary. And you're all heading out into the world. Most of you, I imagine, work in B2B. So this is the kind of insight you can bring as a new, fresh, starting out of the gate marketer to your company. So who's got questions? I mean, about differentiation, about how do you yourself stand out? You're getting a job. Simon's the guy to ask. Anybody want to raise their hand, or we want to call on somebody? Who, just take yourself off mute or throw a question in the chat box. Come on now.
I have a question. I have to keep my camera off because I'm
Okay, I
driving.
got it. No problem. We don't need the camera.
I'm driving right now, but my question is so on a resume, whenever you see young people, especially, what's something that's good to differentiate yourself from other competitors in the market? Because I know that Professor Elmer has told us a lot about adding like podcasts into what we try to do and other side hustles, but like, what's your suggestion to make ourselves stand out amongst the thousands of other people that want to do the same thing we want to do?
Well,
Simon, how do I help a college student stand out amongst all these other people? How do they differentiate themselves, like on a resume, that type of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, that's interesting. I don't know what you guys do over there, Courtney, but certainly in the UK, when we help students develop resumes, we call them CVs. I'm sure you know that as well. But when we help develop it, we always say that you need to start by talking about your competencies, because you've not had like a full-time job. You talk about the skill sets that you think you've developed, like, whatever they may be, effective time management or effective commercial management or whatever. And I think to stand out, if you demonstrate, I mean, a good organization, bad organizations will expect you to be able to do things straight away, but good organizations will know that you won't be able to do everything straight away, and they're looking for people who can demonstrate that they're active learners. So I think that's good advice. Demonstrate that you do more over and beyond just rock up to Westchester University, yeah, and try to also think about how some skills you've learnt both at university and in any sort of part-time jobs can be articulated as transferable skills. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, who's got another question? Anybody have a question about differentiation? Anything we talked about today? What? Everybody's getting bashful. All right. Somebody's got to have a question in this large gallery.
No worries. I can answer questions about soccer or cricket or baseball even.
Well, the Phillies they lost their first game the other day.
All right.
But they're playing pretty good. It's way early though, Simon.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Everybody's so bashful here today. Come on.
I guess I got a question. Has anybody did anybody find those competencies surprising, or were you expecting other things?
I feel like we've talked about some of them before with our guest speakers. I know learners has been like a crucial one, honestly, just like kind of connecting it to how you're always supposed to be like learning. The hard part is like kind of getting the job and then showing that you have those skills necessary to like continue and kind of climb the ranks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Joe. But I also think that what we see at this moment in time is probably too much obsession on asking people for if they've got digital skills. Now that's why we met the difference between a skill and an overall competence. Yeah, I think you know, having digital skills and be able to understand what SEO is and to be able to talk about what that is. It is like the difference between, I think, what Courtney was hinting at, something what we would call table stakes, as opposed to something that sets you apart in the game. Yeah. And so it's finding ways to be able to articulate, I've done X, and by doing X, I can demonstrate that I can be an effective learner, or I am curious about the environment, or I have got a good idea based on, you know, taking a view before I come to talk to you, where this company could possibly go to exploit some new opportunities. I don't think many people would take that into an interview, Joe, you know?
One student asked this question: are there any questions that you could suggest the marketers, as they start out, should be asking to get to get up to speed faster?
Right. Okay. I think like a question like, what does that exactly mean, is a fantastic question, because what you'll find, just as an example, I'd worked in telecoms for like 20 odd years, and then I worked at BT, it was a telecoms company in the UK, and then I came to work for Level 3 in Denver, and I couldn't understand half of the language. And it wasn't because they were from Colorado and I was from the UK. It was because they were talking way too technically. Yeah. So asking what exactly does that mean, and what does that mean for the customer? And, you know, to be able to go in and say, look at some copy and ask yourself if you understand it right there and then, even though you might not understand the whole business, because you should be able to, you know. The chief exec at Level 3 telecoms company used to say, I want my 9-year-old's nephew to be able to understand anything that we send out from this company. Quite often you're a long way from that. Yeah. So all of those kind of questions, you know, the Kipling's famous friends, why does it take us so long to do that? What's who's this communication meant to be for? Who's the actual customer? Yeah. Those kind of things. Why are we doing it this way?
And a lot of what was shared, you don't, having worked as many years as I have, there's going to, like, for example, you're going to be asked a lot in your career to go do this, do that, and have the, you know, again, go back. We'll study these. I'm going to share these slides with you so you can take them with you, because I want you to have them as you look at each of these roles and figure out, how can you be more visionary? How can you be more of a learner? How can you be more useful? These things help you. And again, Joe mentioned, we have been blessed with some great speakers, and you can tell learning is critically stressed. More speakers have talked about that than anything, because once you leave Westchester, they say within 5 years, what you've studied will be obsolete. So it's up to you to continue to learn, because learners are big earners. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about thinking about things that you've done that can be translated into potential differentiators. Because, I mean, let's face it, the whole country there was founded on the basis that Paul Revere rode out and got a load of people to buy into his idea that they needed to do something about the redcoats. Yeah, and that's a great sort of story about activation. Now, you might have done something in your in even your social life. You know, some people are great at mobilizing 10 or 20 people to go out on some social functions just because they've got the skills and the competence to be able to do that. And that's what you have to do to activate people in an organization, you know. So don't dismiss things as not being transferable, as being trite. Yeah. Okay.
Any more questions? One more question and we'll call it an afternoon. One more. Anybody want to tell us what a pestle stands for? Or blue ocean? No, put you on the spot. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's take the picture. Everybody giving the thumbs up. I want to put that out there on the social media. Everybody put your thumbs up now. Let's get a thumbs up for our special speaker. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Those of you who have been in attendance do not have to write the reaction paper. Those of you who are not here, you will be doing that for Sunday at midnight. All right. Thank you so much.
Tom, just to say that if anybody has any questions or thinks about anything afterwards, then just ping me, yeah. And if you want to get the book and you enjoy it, great, let me know. And if you've got any questions, if you get the book, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to chat to you, yeah.
I'm going to send your slides out to everybody so they have all your
mate,
information and they get the codes and all that stuff, okay?
No problem. Yeah, I'd rather be over there eating a cheesesteak and
well, we're going to get you over here, man.
Lives, yeah.
Cheesesteak and a Levante beer from Westchester, PA. Oh, yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Right.
Right, Simon. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
See you later. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Did you take attendance in the beginning? Because I was
I got
just
you.
a couple.
I got you.
All right,
Dylan.
great. All right, great. I'll
See you
see you
later.
next week.
All right.